From the headquarters of the Guild of Champions, this is the Chris Terrell Podcast, and I am your host, Chris Terrell, and welcome to another week of your weight loss quest. How did this last week go for you, champion? What new challenges did you encounter? But more importantly, what failure did you go through, and what lesson did you get from that failure? Come on now, don't let a perfectly good failure go by without you getting your lesson. That's your reward for your troubles. Now, if you're new here, I've lost 125 pounds myself after an entire adulthood of chronic yo-yo dieting. Up, down again. Before I finally got sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I made some permanent, meaningful, and actual changes to my real life lifestyle, my actual habits, my actual routines, my life. I changed that stuff, and then I started to look a little different as many things in my life started to change. And I'm now here each week helping folks like you getting the same results in your life. And this week, I've got a great episode. This episode kicks off a new season. It's an arbitrary thing, but every 25 episodes, I say new season, and we are now running into Season 9, Episode 1. Season 8 was a great season. Learned a lot about myself, learned a lot about the podcast. Some things changed in the world, and it's been a lot of fun. And I'm really excited to see where this next 25 weeks are going to take us together. Now, this week, I'm going to demonstrate something that is very important for you to know how to do in your own life. Now, I've mentioned in the beginning of most episodes, certainly all of them recently, that we are a byproduct of our lifestyle, habits, routines, environment, community, and system of belief. Because you see, all of those things can be configured in a different way. There is no one single lifestyle that is right for everybody. There is no one single correct community that you need to have. There is no single correct habit that must be in your life. It's all just a collection of different organizations of these things, and you end up with a different person. And one of the things that I realized at the beginning of my successful weight loss journey is I need to start getting more information. There's things I don't know. I don't even know what it is I don't know. Clearly, if I knew how to lose weight, I'd have done it by now, and I ain't done it by now. And it's not been from a lack of effort, because I've been putting in a lot of effort. It just ain't happened yet. Maybe I just don't know what to do. And I, in my professional life, am a big believer in the power of modeling. Big believer in the power of modeling. I think modeling is a tremendously effective way to get where you want to go. And I was using it in my professional life. I've been using it for decades. Basically, it's this. Find somebody that has the results you want. Let's say somebody has a higher up position than you have, and you want their position. You need to find out how to get time with that person and learn as much as you can from them. You have to model them. You have to find out how they think. You need to find out what they read. You need to find out what they watch. You need to find out how they spend their time. You need to learn about their belief systems. You need to take your problems, show your problem to that person, and ask them how they'd handle it, and look at the differences. Find the answers that don't make any sense, because you're going to be the one that has to change. You talk to someone that has what you want, and you will learn from them. And of course, in a business setting, that makes perfect sense. In a sports setting, that makes sense. Let's say you wanted to become a good woodworker. You could sign up as an apprentice to work with a master carpenter. And we know, what would you be doing? You would effectively be modeling that master carpenter. You would take on that master carpenter's approach to carpentry. And trust me, there's not one universal way to cut a piece of wood. There's a lot of best practices, but there's a lot of variances, and an individual would learn all this from their mentor, and they would adopt that into their life. Sometimes these people could be a coach. Sometimes these people are an actual mentor in your life, or maybe a parent or a friend, or just a person. Sometimes a model is something you get from a book, because you have no means of accessing the individual. In many ways, I would say I modeled a lot of my business principles off of Steve Jobs. I ain't never met the man. The man's dead, and he certainly, when he was alive, was never going to meet with me. But I could read his books, I could consume his content, and I could get into the man's head as much as I am able to adopt the things that I want. Many of you know this already. But one of the things that's important is I realize I've got to start applying this to my personal life, and I wasn't doing it. Hey, if you want to get your financial situation in a better place, find somebody that has the personal finances like you want and model them for their finances. They might have a fucked up marriage. Don't model them in their marriage. People can be wildly successful in one part of life and not in another. Many of you, your weight is by no means indicative of what your capacity for greatness is. I'm willing to bet if we look in other parts of your life, we will see that you've achieved greatness. We will see that you are talented. We will see that you are intelligent. And so you haven't licked the body weight side of your life, but sure, some of you finance-wise, you're like kicking ass. Some of you are a badass husband or wife. Some of y'all are a great boss. Some of you are great at business. Some of you are a great landscaper. I don't know. There's all sorts of things you're probably great at. And you find someone that is great at the thing that you want to be great at, and you discard the rest. And what I started thinking is, maybe I could do this with my body weight. And on my journey, in the very beginning, I began modeling thin people. Because I had always, you know who I usually modeled? Fat people that lost weight and gained it back. That's usually who I modeled. And lo and behold, I got results that matched. And then sometimes I would go talk to fat people that lost a whole bunch of weight. But then I didn't ask them after they had kept it off for 5 years. I asked them right when they lost the weight. So all of their answers, they ain't been field tested yet to see if they work long term. Because let's be real, you don't want to lose weight. You want to lose weight and keep it off. That's the goal. It's not lose weight and then gain it back over 5 years. Fuck that. You want to lose it and keep it off. So I started thinking there's this whole group of people that I want to be like, and I've never talked to them about my problem or my challenges. And this group of people that I want to be like are people that are thin and stay thin. Sure, they might fluctuate a little bit within thinness, but I wanted to be like them. And you know who I never went and talked to about that stuff? Them. I had never talked to them about it. And lo and behold, they speak and think and operate very differently with regards to food and movement and stress than I do. Now, just because a person has found a system that works doesn't mean that's the thing to do, right? Like I talked to one person basically, why were they thin? Because it didn't make sense to me. They ate candy all the time. Turns out they ate mostly just candy and they lived off of coffee and cigarettes. Like, okay, yeah, that is a diet, the coffee cigarette diet. I see that a lot here in the South. But that's not really what I'm looking for, right? I'd like to actually eat more food. So I need to find people that would eat the kinds of foods that I want to eat. And you know what I want to eat? I want to eat carbs. Carbs are great. Carbs are delicious. Carbs are happiness. Carbs just provide pure joy in my mouth every time I eat them. And so I thought, well, let me find people that are thin that eat carbs, and I will learn how to do it like them. And so I started talking about it. Started learning from them. You know, if I went to people that, how are you thin? Oh, I don't eat carbs. Well, I want to eat carbs. And you don't eat carbs. Well, your information is no good to me. Because all your information is going to involve you not eating carbs, and I don't want to do that. I want to eat carbs. So I'm going to find people that figure out how to lose weight and keep it off while eating carbs. Anyway, so I've invited my brother, who was one of my models, into the studio, and we did an impromptu conversation, modeling conversation. And it's very loose. I put him on the spot. He didn't know it was going to happen. We showed up. We've almost had a conversation a few times just ourselves. And I'm like, no, let's record this. I want to let everybody hear it. And so we were in the studio. And I said, dude, just come over here, sit down. I put a microphone in front of him. I put a microphone in front of me. And I hit record and said, okay, let's keep talking. So some of this is much more conversational than normal. It's not a highly polished thing because I wanted you to hear a raw modeling conversation. I want you to notice the kinds of questions he asks. I want you to notice where I'll show the belief systems. I want you to notice, in this case, what's kind of cool is I can ask him to reflect on my past, to how he saw me before. There's some really interesting questions that we dove into, some things that I think I'd like to ask more thin people what they think. I think it'd be fascinating to hear their answers. Because there's so much we can learn. I have learned so much that has helped me tremendously from people that have never really had a tremendously bad weight management problem. And so we're going to get into that. But before we move over to that, I just want to remind you, if you have not yet done so, please give the podcast a rating and a review. I want to have a chance to earn that rating and review first. So please give the podcast a few episodes of a listen through, and if you feel that I've earned that review, I would love to have that. And if you are on Spotify, you can leave a comment on the show. I do read them. I do enjoy them. Please feel free in your show notes section of your podcasting app on Spotify. You can leave a comment. I will get it. And if you are not part of my free Facebook group, I would like to invite you to come join my totally free Facebook group by going to christerrellcoaching.com, or you can find a link to that in the show notes of this week's episode. All right, let's go ahead and send it on over to Chris and David. Okay, for everybody that doesn't know, you're my brother. You were how many years younger than me again? I'm about to turn 40.
It's usually 5 years younger, so I'm 34 right now.
Okay, so we're 5. Yeah, so you're 5 years. Now you were let's just jump right into it. You were just about to tell me something that made me stop and pause. I was showing you some B-roll footage or some footage of me while I was losing weight, and you said that was a version of me you didn't see very much of.
Yeah, it's always interesting because you don't have that many pictures of that point. It seems you don't have a lot of pictures of your past. It seems
there's very few pictures of me.
So the big version of you, though, I've seen that a lot, and I've seen some pictures of that. But then when I saw that version of you where you're in the middle between now 165?
170.
170, and what were you before?
At 290 at my biggest.
Okay. Yeah, so the one where you look like you're maybe 230, maybe 250.
Like where I came and saw you in Seattle? Or not Seattle, in Wyoming?
Yeah.
I was about
or in South Dakota there.
Yeah, I think I was getting close to 200 there.
Yeah, so that was a version of you
like
that when I saw you, it was like the skinniest I've seen you in my life. It seemed, obviously not when we were younger, but it was the skinniest adult version of you. And I was like, oh, wow, like you've lost a lot of weight. But I thought that was it. Oh, that's your new form. This is the new you.
Now, but you were saying something, though, a second ago, like, what did you think when you saw me having lost weight? Because you said you had seen me lose weight before.
Yeah, so this is the other thing. Obviously, me being in shape, I've known how to be in shape for a lot of my life, most of my life. And I've also heard you talk to me about how to lose weight lots of times when you've been losing weight. And I'd watch you do it. And then I'd also watch you stop whatever you were doing to lose weight. And then you now have it back. So when I saw you in this time, I'm like, okay, well, this is what you look like now, but you'll probably just go back. This is just in one of your natural swings of life of you're really overweight or mildly overweight. But then you just kept getting smaller and then you stopped changing and now you're at your form now.
Well, no, that's how it felt for me. It's like I reached this form, I'm like, and this is how I'm going to look. Now, I'm curious for you. I've been wanting to ask you this because, again, we've almost had this conversation a few times. I've not actually asked anybody in the family about this because I would go up and down, but I was always going up slowly over time. But I've had a few big swings. From your perspective, what is it like watching a family member do that? Go up, go down, go up, go down. What did that look like to you? What did you think? Again, don't hold back. I am in such a good place with all this. I am so genuinely curious what you thought.
I mean, it's interesting, especially because we didn't live around each other the whole time.
Right.
So I would go long periods of time and then I would see you and then I didn't know what I'd get. But then I remember one time you came out. Yeah, one time you came out. It was to Melbourne out in the middle of nowhere. And you were out there. It was a hot day. And I just realized you got really big clothes because you were huge. And I was like, this is the biggest I've ever seen you in my life.
Yeah.
And I was talking about wanting to go up the mountain. And you were like not even close to entertaining that idea. You didn't even know what the property looked like. It was a non-starter. Anytime you mentioned going up that mountain, I know it's, yeah. You knew what like the 10% of that property looked like just because you wouldn't even go to the 90% of the property. No, I did it once with Dad. He took me on a hike out there and I hated it. And I think I went on 2 or 3 hikes and that's it. If we couldn't go there on a 4-wheeler, wasn't much interested in going to see it. It was just too much. I remember one time we were out there hunting and Johnny was going to, our other brother, he was going to hike up to the top of a mountain just across the creek up to the other hill. And I'm like, you're going to walk that far in the morning? Why? That seems way too far. Don't you want to take a 4-wheeler? And he looked at me like I was nuts. I mean, what was it like for you seeing me ask those questions just from your perspective? Because you've never been as big as I was or as out of shape as I was. Yeah, I mean, it's also, I might be on the other end of the spectrum.
What do you mean?
I'll go with nothing and go sleep out in the middle of the woods and climb all that and sleep with nothing.
Well,
and
true.
So it's like, I just look at everyone, well, yeah, they don't want to do that. Now, granted, of course, that's a really steep mountain. Like I bring people who are in shape there and they realize they're not as in shape as they thought they were.
Oh, you're talking the one that you offered me to go with the cliff up at the top.
Yeah, or the one Johnny was talking about with you. They're still serious mountains, but you wouldn't even come close to entertaining the idea. Whereas now, you have gone though. I've gone there with you.
Eagerly do it.
We ran on parts of it.
Yeah. It's interesting. And to see the difference, because like there are things out there that in the past I genuinely didn't want to do. And nor could I ever see a path where I would want to do it. And now that I'm thin with the body that's capable of playing on the mountain, I want to do it. And that's the part I realized I wasn't equating that the reason why I didn't want to is because my body just couldn't do it and I didn't want to deal with that and I didn't want to face it.
Well, yeah, and you don't want to be honest with yourself to that level, so it's easier to just say, I don't want to do it.
For you watching me, though, going the up and the down, because you've said something a couple of times, like you were saying, like it always came back. Like I always went back to what I was doing and you saw me sometime later and I was big again.
Yeah, because, I mean, a lot of the times the stuff you, like many people, they suggest to lose weight, I just think you guys are insane. What are you guys doing? Like, you guys look like, it's almost like you're taking binoculars and sticking your head on the ground and just walking around like that, looking at words on a page, trying to understand it all.
Really? It's just such a narrow view of it. Yeah,
it's just narrow. And it's just, you know, but at the same time, I look at, okay, well, what would my 8-year-old be like if he never got the knowledge and he just kept getting older and older and older for 30 more years? He's not going to have it. It's not that he's unintelligent and he doesn't have the ability to get it. He's just not going to have it. Now, as he goes on further in life, he's less willing or likely to learn more because people learn less and less.
They do tend to close their minds, yeah.
Yeah, but I just think, oh, okay, well, you're not really serious. I think I've said that before. Yeah, I just felt like, well, you're just not that serious about it. You just don't care that much.
When you'd see me, did you think I took it seriously, my weight and my health of my body?
No.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't seem like I did. Now, what about when I was talking about it, though? Or I can't remember if I talked about it with you much. I would talk about it like with Dad or with my Jeremy, another brother of mine, because we were always the ones struggling with losing weight.
That's what it was. You would usually talk to Jeremy about it because you're both losing weight together. So you would talk to each other because you could share that experience of losing weight together, whereas I wasn't losing weight. So you're not talking to me about that because I'm not trying to lose weight. But you know, every now and then might be just in the conversation. But yeah, it was you talking to Jeremy or Dad, who you were all doing some weight loss thing.
Right. I have, until this last time I lost weight, because there were both questions, like you and Johnny and John and Evelyn, these are my other siblings and in-laws. I would regularly, I started picking y'all's brains. And I remember it was actually a weird thing. I was like, why have I never picked y'all's brains before? I actually had a conversation with Johnny once. I don't think you were there. Or I just said, how do you decide what to eat for lunch? I'd never asked. I'd never asked another person ever. And then I remember asking, I was like, do you get on the scale? I didn't know what his answer was going to be. And I was like, so when you see it's up, what do you do? And he had an answer. That's what shocked me, is he actually had an answer. When it goes, oh yeah, when it goes up, I started eating salads and soups for lunches just to reduce the intake. I was like, really? No idea he was doing that. No clue. And it was very enlightening to talk to you and Johnny and John and Evelyn and just see how y'all did things, because y'all approached so many aspects of life with your body and food totally differently than I did. You just approached them completely differently.
Well, yeah, and it's really interesting thinking about that now, because I remember when you were asking more questions and I was like, oh, you're taking it seriously now. And then you started coaching others, and then you asked even more questions. Oh, you're really taking it serious now. You want to make sure that you are a subject matter expert in this, because you're now asking questions, whereas before, when you would just yo-yo lose weight off and on, you never asked any questions. You knew it. You knew the answers. You already found them. So you were using them, although they didn't stick out. But you had already found the answers. So where's the room left to fill?
My cup was full, man.
Exactly. So it's, well, I can't give you any answers. You already have them. You're a very strong, demeanored person. So you got your answers.
So so this is the next part I wanted to ask, and I just wanted to ask you directly. Were you skeptical that it would stick? And if so, for how long? Or were you not really skeptical at all that it would stick?
I think when I saw you really changed when you came to visit in South Dakota, or when we were visiting there, I believe, oh, you're serious. You're making changes, because that was the biggest amount I've seen you lose.
At that point, yeah, that was the smallest I had been since like in my early 20s.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, no, you're serious. And then, of course, with all the changes and with Dad passing, I knew, okay, well, no, I think you are like it. Yeah, I wasn't skeptical at that point. All through the other times, yeah, it wasn't even, skeptical wasn't even the word. It wasn't even brought to that point of judging whether I'm skeptical or not. Like, no, you're just on this yo-yo thing.
Yeah.
You're just kind of taking it serious now. Not, And that's why I feel like some people think, well, I'm just big, is because, no, it's just really that hard to change your lifestyle. It's just really that hard when you don't know all these little things.
Well, you're hitting on something that's really important, the not knowing. We're 5 years apart, so we had different experiences, different schools. We moved a lot. I took the brunt of the moving from all of us kids, being a few years older. No one ever really taught me that I can recall when I was younger about energy balance, food in, food out. I was very picky as an eater. And all I remember everybody ever telling me is if you don't eat healthy, you're going to get big. And I didn't want to eat healthy, so I just kept thinking, well, I'm going to get big. That's literally how I grew up thinking, is I'm just destined to become big because I don't like to eat healthy food. No one else really ever told me anything differently. Dad struggled with food or with weight, which granted he was, from a mindset standpoint, it was great, but he just didn't have the practical knowledge on how to control all that. So I'm just wondering, many people would have called you, and this is what I would have called you and Johnny and Evelyn. These are my other siblings. I would have said y'all are naturally thin. That's what I would have said. I would have said y'all, we do the same things and y'all are in thin bodies and I'm not. That's what I thought. So I'm curious for you, the phrase naturally thin, as someone that has always been thin, what do you think about that?
See, to me, I mean, I know there's different body types, and some people really do have a little bit different. It's different depending on the body type. I don't feel like I'm naturally thin, though, at all. I feel like I manage it. I know that I'm a highly active person, and I always have been. Mm-hmm. In high school, people would comment on how much I would eat at lunch because I would eat so much food. But I played football right after school. I mean, when I played, I was all out sprinting nonstop. After that, I would often work out. Another time, I'd go run, longboard, do all kind of active things. I would always be moving throughout most of the day. So I'm very, very active. And I don't just eat junk. I was mindful to not overeat of sugars and things like that. Although when I was younger, I did. But at the same time, I didn't have a six-pack all the time because I didn't care that much. I mean, I was just energy, take it all.
Right.
But people thought I was naturally thin, and that's why you can eat that much, because they'd see me eat that much at lunch. Well, that's why you can eat that much. You're naturally thin. And the guy next to me, he's overweight, and he's eating less than me, and he can't understand it. But what he doesn't think about, same football practice, same guy, he's not running like me. He's doing a little more standing.
So you're both at football practice, but you're not having the same football practice.
We're not having the same practice. I'm moving. I'm moving to a point to where I'm exhausted, and then I'm moving 10 times more than that because I know if I don't, these other guys next to me that are more athletic than me, that have more skills than me, that are bigger than me, stronger than me, faster than me, they want the spot, and I want that spot. So now I have to go even more. So I'm like, surely that's going to burn more calories, right?
Now, but in high school or in your early 20s, did you think in terms of calories? I was not truly aware of the term calorie. I had heard of it, but I didn't know what calories were until about 5 years ago.
Not much. It is a similar. I knew it. Of course, I know about calories, but it wasn't really until I think my first year of college. It was in a physical health class, and we really got into the nutrition facts, which I love. American nutrition facts labels. They really are nice. Different parts of the world, it's sad because they don't have it as nice.
Yeah, you were telling me about that because I know you were just living in Europe for the last little while, and you were telling me how different it is over there versus here. It's easy to find the calorie information in a consistent format here in America, versus you were saying in Europe.
Yeah, it's much nicer than that because and it's nice. I'm glad we have that, and even restaurants, a lot of times now.
Oh my gosh, it's so much
posting
easier.
It, they're letting you know how much calories is there.
Do you, as someone that has always been thin and in shape, and when I say always been thin and in shape, I know that you've had some swings up, and you've had periods of time where you're less in shape, less thin, and periods of time where you're more in shape, more thin, which I've seen is just normal. But like you've never been 100 pounds and you can't go up a ladder 6 times, right? So for you, is calorie information useful? Do you like having that displayed?
Yes. Yeah, always.
How do you use that?
I don't track my calories that closely. The closest I track are when I'm really doing ultramarathon training.
But you're tracking to make sure you're getting enough.
Yeah, I'm tracking a little bit different purpose. So, but I still like it because I'm mindful. Also, I'm mindful of the type. If I want a quick energy food and I'm at the gas station with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
I need some quick energy. We're about to go do something active for a few hours outside. I know we need some quick energy. I want readily available energy. I'm going to get something quick. But if I look at two options, one is more protein based, like a protein bar, then one's just some crackers, more carbs, and they're both the same calories. They're both 200 calories. Okay, I know, okay, well, this is 200, this is 200. I like to know that, but then I think, okay, well, this is 200, but it's protein. It's not all protein, of course. But this is 200.
But more of the
protein.
Calories are dedicated to protein
So I just
versus
know,
the crackers.
Yeah, so I know I like that because I think, okay, well, if I'm going to get 200 calories, I also know I need more protein.
So over time, you've started thinking, and because I think in these terms now as well, of like you said, if I'm going to go on a run, and I'm a little snackish right before, I'm going to eat like some Cheez-Its or a goo or something, which much more just carbs. Quick. Because I'm about to use it right now.
Something I need I can use it now in 30 minutes.
But then when I'm done with the workout, I'm like, okay, now I'd like to have, I don't need the energy. I need some protein to repair what I just destroyed.
Yeah. So even though I could crave anything, I mean, it's different levels of running, obviously. So extreme levels, I do need carbs and sugar immediately after my runs.
Oh, well, yeah, on the extreme end, yeah.
Normal workouts, no, I just want protein after.
Right.
And that's all I really want.
But when you were younger, were you thinking of managing your weight in any way in high school and early 20s? Was that something you thought about and made choices in your life to steer your body weight a different direction or your body composition a different direction?
I did, but I didn't think about it that much, really. I thought about it, but I wasn't taking it to crazy levels.
You weren't
I really
overthinking it.
I wasn't overthinking it. I just know, I want to be in shape. I look nice. I want to look nice. That's it. I just want to look nice, and I want to not get tired when I do things.
Okay. So for you, in that terms, though, were you aware that if I eat too much, I'll get bigger?
Yeah.
Regardless of what it was?
If I eat too much, I now have to do more.
Did you think if I eat the wrong things, I'll get bigger?
At that time, not as much. I didn't get that until a little bit later when I really learned to balance out. And I did wonder, though, because at certain times, I was like, I have this little bit of body fat at the bottom of my abs. And I was like, I don't really like that. But at the same time, I would down 15 Oreos in a sitting. So, of course. Now, if I didn't do that, I probably would have had that six pack with how much activity I was doing. Because it was just, when I say active, I mean active, like active. 6 hours of my day could be spent on high output.
Well, and I think that's important one of the things I realized the term I started calling it is I lived a chair to chair to chair life. My movement pretty much consisted of relocating from one chair to another, preferably with as minimal amount of effort and time in between. I mean, if I did errands, of course, like grocery shopping, right? I'm walking, that's fine. But of course, I wanted a cart. So I literally would pick a cart because I wanted to lean on it as I walked. I wanted to literally have it take some of my weight off. All right, I'm actually about to ask you that. I actually will now intentionally not get a cart and carry things just to let my arms get tired. Do you ever do something like that, out of curiosity?
No.
Okay, I was just curious. I'll do things the hard way just because I can.
I will park far sometimes just to walk extra.
Yeah. Oh, you'll do that? Are there things like that you'll do in life just to get more movement?
I don't think I have a lot of stuff like that. I mean, because I just know I have my set apart active times.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm not active, I'm actually kind of lazy looking. I mean, I might want to sit down. I might want to lean against the wall.
Mm-hmm.
I might want to lean against a shopping cart sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's only, I do that. But on the other side, I'm very active. So when I'm moving, I'm moving. And even when I'm working a lot, I want to be moving. If I can have a standing desk, I want a standing desk. I want to be able to pace. I pace a lot when I'm really thinking.
So you move hard, but you rest hard.
Yeah, I rest. And I think, okay, well, I'm resting. I've got to rebuild. There's this whole supply chain of energy now that's got to be rebuilt and ready for the next movement cycle.
So you don't feel bad. You don't feel guilty if you rest.
Not at all. I could do nothing all day, and I wouldn't feel bad at all.
Got it. Because you're going to be catching yourself on the other end probably tomorrow or the next day.
Yeah. Now, if I was doing that for weeks, I feel bad. And the body will show signs that it's deteriorating. The body's not meant to do that. But it's okay to rest every now and then. It's okay to just fully recover. Do you ever get into just the fuck-its where you're just like, I just don't really care about taking care of my body right now or working on things? Do you ever get in that mode where you're just like, I just don't care? Yeah. But I don't just completely unleash and just do nothing.
How come?
Because I do care at the same time. It's like I know part of me in the moment doesn't care, but I'm not just that me. I'm also these other versions of me where I know, I do care. But there are times where I'm like, I don't want to do anything, and I just want to eat. And it's the nice thing is I am human, so I can do that. I can just commit some gluttony at a buffet, and I will suffer for it the next 2 days. So if I overeat, obviously I'm stretching my stomach lining, I'm overloading everything, all this extra stuff. But what I'll also do is use that energy like most people will never do, and I'll just go for hours and hours and hours of run or in building something.
So if you consume it, you'll go burn it.
Yeah. One of my first times figuring that out was we were out on this climbing trip out in Jasper, Arkansas. There's a few of us there, but there's this little restaurant in town, and they make pizzas. And we got this massive deep dish meat pizza with the pizza was like 2.5 inches tall, and it was a giant square pizza. There's 3 of us, me, a guy, and 1 girl, and we were like, okay, we're gonna eat this whole thing. And we ate the whole thing, and it was like a miracle that we could even finish this thing. Like one piece, one small little square, you were full. But then after that, I was like, I can't move. But then immediately after that, we drive back to where we're climbing, and we climb for 2 days straight. I don't even think I hardly ate another thing the next 2 days. But yeah, so we commit some gluttony from time to time. I don't think that's necessarily a good thing, but I do it. But because I'm human, I can rebound. And then I think about it. Overall, I don't do that very often. And I realize I don't actually like doing that. So I don't do it much now. It's rare that I just gorge myself. I don't like it. Because for one, I'm like, okay, I'm going to feel the after effects now because my runs the next couple of days are going to be harder. My energy is going to be a little bit different. It's not going to be quite as smooth. Everything's going to be thrown off.
So you don't just think in terms of, I don't gorge myself. I'm restating this. I'm also trying to filter through the way I used to see the world. I would say I don't want to gorge myself because I don't want to get fat. You're saying you don't want to gorge yourself because you don't like the way it makes life feel to live it, the way you want to live it. Like you want to go move and go run, and if you gorge yourself, it's not fun.
Yeah, and if I gorge myself on the wrong things, I can feel the difference, and I feel the energy difference, and that's the beauty of doing something over and over again, like running, and really paying close attention to the way my diet and the way it made me feel was I could really tell a difference between the type of food I ate and how quickly I could warm up in a run, or maybe if the 10 minutes normal cycle of warm up time now becomes 30 minutes because it's like just something's off, like I just don't feel right, or I'm sweating extra. It's like my body's overheating for some reason.
So the quality of your life is an important thing that you're focusing on, then, is what I'm hearing. Like, that's what I'm hearing is very different, is I didn't think, the things you're describing, that didn't enter my mind for why I shouldn't gorge myself. I just never thought those things, ever.
And I realized if I want my mental health to be right, I've got to make sure my body's right, because that's the brain. Because I know people who have brain damage, and after they get that damaging event, they're different. They operate different. They think different because their brain is different. And it's so proven that the foods we eat can change the way our brain operates. The things we do on a regular basis change the way our brain operates.
That is something that I now fully believe and realize that I didn't. I used to really pride myself in my mind and how I could think. And that's what I leaned on. I'm like, oh, I may not be fat, but at least I can think good. At least I'm smart. I didn't realize that I was actually still hindering myself. I didn't realize I was actually reducing my ability to effectively think because of my body. And that's what I was doing. I mean, at just an absolute minimum, I was spending effort thinking about food and getting food. I invested a lot of time doing it. And who could judge me? You're supposed to eat. Everybody puts the time into thinking about food. But I'm willing to bet if we were to total up the amount of time I would spend thinking about food in a week versus how much time you spent thinking about food in a week, it was probably a lot more for me. Now, some of it might be, which I've wondered, and I don't know if there's any way we could even test this, maybe I genetically had more food noise than you. Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe so. Who knows? But I do know I was doing precisely nothing to reduce it. I mean, I was doing nothing to reduce the food noise, to think about it less. I mean, if anything, I was excusing it all the time. It's interesting kind of hearing you talk about this stuff because you are talking about it in a way that Some of the stuff, it's still not quite how I think about it, but it's certainly so different from how I used to think about things.
Well, it's like when we're born, we're just this empty slate. We're like this AI that could be just programmed by every single event in your entire life. And it's uncontrolled. But it's so different. Even though we're in the same household, yeah, we did learn things differently. Completely different.
We had different experiences, too.
Yeah. I mean, I think about my kids. They have drastically different experiences because of the way I introduce food to them. My firstborn, I had this phobia that he was going to choke. Because I'm like, well, how do I can't teach him to not choke. And I remember there's been times in life where I've almost choked. It's terrifying. And then they choke all the time. And they're gagging all the time and spitting stuff up all the time. So I didn't want to introduce solid foods to him.
Oh, interesting.
But the next two, I introduced solid foods much earlier. They were eating whatever I ate.
Okay.
And they eat much better.
So that changed
And
it.
the oldest, he struggled eating new foods because he liked the soft, consistent food consistently every single time. So maybe at the time when his brain was forming the structure of how he processes food, I wasn't giving him enough solids. And so I could have inadvertently changed his entire life by that one little difference. And that's how different it could be, the nurturing process.
Just one little decision that a parent made from one child to the next could fundamentally alter how they approach food the rest of their life.
Yeah, so now I'm picking up the pieces and I'm teaching him now the hard way to learn all these new foods. And it's harder, but he is slowly getting it. He's slowly picking it up. But the others, they'll eat almost anything. But it's because I did introduce almost anything.
Interesting. But I mean, the reality is, after me, food was approached differently from all of you, the siblings below me. I still don't know what really created the picky eating. I mean, I still struggle with it to this day, letting in new foods. I'm so much better than I was, but I still am there's still a lot of foods I struggle to eat. I mean, or I won't eat them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in my mind, we evolve based on experiences. And what if there was one experience when you were a baby of you gagged hard on something and it scarred you for life? It was that traumatic.
Right.
With your collective of experiences of that time, it was that traumatic. It put you off of food for a long time. And it happened long enough that it formed this deep groove like a deep river.
Interesting. I mean, it's possible.
Yeah. And then it just made it harder.
And it's possible. And the problem is I may never get to know what create. Probably won't. I've been searching for a while to try to understand why, and I don't really have any answers. I have just a bunch of theories that are unprovable, and they're probably just coincidence, a bunch of them. But I think you're hitting an important part, though. It's for whatever reason, you and I are different, and definitely the environment, parenting, all that made a difference. But I think the big difference is, as I became an adult, I continued to remain powerless. I truly didn't think I had the ability to change my body and to be whatever I wanted it to be. I just didn't think I could. I always thought I was like, the way I would psychologically describe it, imagine holding a big beach ball, like the kind you blow up, that's 3 feet across. Imagine holding that underwater in a pool. Like, you could hold it several feet under the water, but what's going to happen the moment you let go? It's just going to pop up. So I believed my body was that. It always wanted to be big. It always wanted to be heavy. And the only way to keep it down is I had to commit to holding this ball underneath the pool forever. Is the only way I could do it. I had to commit to just finding a way to lose weight that was easy, that I could just do forever. Because anytime I'm not losing weight, I'm going to gain weight at a rate I'm not happy with. And so my answer, I always believed, was to find a way of dieting, of losing weight that was really easy, that I didn't have to do any work, that was just as easy to do as gaining weight, but maybe I just had to cut out some foods. And anytime I gained weight, I would just go back to it. But the problem is I never found it. I never found a way that was effortless, that was quick to lose weight. I'm curious what you think hearing me explain that. That's how I saw things.
Yeah, I don't see it that way. It's just, to me, you just find a routine that works.
But did you think of your body in terms of like it wanted to be a certain size?
In my mind, no. If anything, it wanted to be the most perfect form it could be. That's all it wants. And if you think about it, that's what human bodies do. Like, when you look at a young human baby, it wants to just be the best version it could be. It wants to evolve. But as that human baby goes, or if we look at all the human babies, as they get older, then their actual choices start to shine through, and they become less capable to their potential. Their potential gets smaller and smaller and smaller of what they are capable wise, human wise.
I think it's interesting the way you said it. The body wants to be the best version. So what if the best? I'm gonna take a stab at how I would define that. The best version is it wants to adapt to its lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly. The best version of a human is adapting to its lifestyle and surroundings, and that's what humans do. That's why if you want to be a good runner, you just put it in that lifestyle and surrounding. You don't have to do all the rest. Mm-hmm. That's going to help you if you do all the rest, if you learn and get smarter about it. But if you just do the bare minimum of putting yourself in that surrounding of that lifestyle of running, you're not going to get good at it because your body is going to adapt.
Well, I started telling people, if you want to look like a runner, go run. You notice how all swimmers look like swimmers? It's because they swim. They didn't have the swimmer body and then they got into swimming. They might have had some hints that they could, but it was created. But I've started realizing if you just live your life sitting still most of the time,
your body's good at that.
Yeah, it's going to adapt to be really good at that, and it'll become easy. I've noticed the more capable my body has become, the more I actually need to have access to food. Because I don't have a lot of extra energy stored on my body, and I need it for fuel. So if I don't have food, I go down pretty fast, right? And I've noticed like I will go from 0 to really hungry way faster than I used to.
I know for me, when I'm at that low body percent fattage though, I get hungry quick. And you go down in energy quick. That's why I, like many people, don't actually like to stay at that level, real low body percentage, under 10%.
I'm 7%, starting to feel that.
Yeah, or if you're in a deficit, if you're just in too strong of a deficit, it's hard. Even if you do have the fat, it's sometimes hard for your body to keep up burning it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was talking with Candace about this. I mean, just last night. You know, I kept a visible 6-pack for over a year. It might vanish for a day or two, but it always just came right back within a couple days. And I discovered there is an actual lifestyle that goes with having a visible 6-pack all the time. I had to eat a certain way. It was flexible. It didn't have to be perfect, but like you mentioned, like eating 18 Oreos, like that was my 6-pack was going to go away if I did that, right?
Yeah.
It was just going to be gone the next day.
The next day it would be gone if you do that.
Right. But I could bring it back in a few days, provided I corrected it right away. But I had to correct it right away. And now I pretty much keep like a visible 4-pack, which still just blows my mind to be able to do that most of the time. But I've noticed it is much easier to do that than to have a visible 6-pack. Like I can be a little bit more forgiving. I don't have to be quite as strict. Yeah, I'm not as lean, but it's just easier. And my body performed. I was telling Candace, I've liked how I liked how my body looked better a couple of years ago, but my body right now can perform way better than my body a couple of years ago. And I like that more.
Yeah.
What do you think about that as I like share this? This is very new to me, this realization. Is this normal in your life then?
Yeah, I've almost always leaned towards performance. And it wasn't until recently I've taken more approach towards look. Not as much this last year, but the year before. And recently I'm starting to get this last few weeks, I'm starting to do more of it. But I'm mostly performance based, which means I'm not going to always have a low body percent fat because it's too hard to keep up the performance level. It's not that I can't. You can keep up the low body percentage.
But you have to fuel.
But you have to fuel right. You got to get your timings right. And if I have to now do a 16-mile run and I don't feel properly that day and during, then now I'm out of whack the next day and I'm not going to feel good. And my mind might not even work the same way. It might not be as quick. Yeah.
Well, I know. I watched when I was getting into ultramarathon running, I watched a video where somebody was talking about their off season. I was kind of learning about off seasons, how I should do them, what goes into it. And somebody said, I actually like to start my season off with a little bit of fat on me. They're like, it kind of evens out my energy levels on these longer runs. It's a little bit of fuel I can use. And I actually had never thought about that in those terms of, because again, in my mind, body fat on body equals bad. It had never dawned on me to think, no, it's okay to have some body fat on your body. You're using it as a fuel source. That's what it's for.
Yeah, like of course I worked with cosmetic surgery for a while, and some of the guys talk about liposuction. Like, yeah, you can get free liposuction. I'm like, why would I want that? I need that fat. Like, I'm going to use that. Any fat that goes in my body, it gets used. Like,
well, this is interesting. Here's something that's interesting. The way you talk, that I'm just in this conversation and a couple recent ones, I've really noticed, and this is different. So I'm going to show you my old belief system and a belief system of many. I worked out, now I've earned food. I seem to hear you saying, I've eaten, now I've earned a good workout. I'm using my own wording, but I've not heard you say, and maybe I've missed it, I've not heard you say, I worked out really hard, therefore now I'm going to get to eat extra food. You seem to always be talking in terms of, I have loaded up my body, and now I'm going to go use it. You seem to always be talking in that direction.
Yeah, I lean towards that more. And I do it with my kids too, because they'll try to say, well, we ran, now we need to go get a donut. I'm like, no, we don't now. Now we need to rebuild. We need a different type of food after. We've earned a different type of food. But we've earned protein after. We've earned that after. At the beginning, yeah, I've eaten this. Now we got to go use it.
So what do you think if I tell you the mindset of where a person will be talking about their week and everything, and they'll have a bad week or something that got them off track, and we're trying to uncover what happened, and they will say something to the effect of, I worked out really hard, or I took a 15,000 step day and I felt like I deserved to have more food, right? There'll be some variant on that. I did a whole bunch of energy, and so I rewarded myself with an ice cream sundae. And it's usually some sort of indulgence, usually was the case. It's not like I worked out hard and then I went and had my normal dinner. It's I worked out hard and I had a treat, something extra.
Yeah, it's just a complete incongruence, though. It just doesn't connect with the overall goal. Well, that doesn't make sense. If you want the ice cream, eat it before. If you really think you earned this ice cream, eat it before so you can actually use it. If you're going to use it after, you're not even going to really use most of it.
Explain that.
If you eat simple carbs after a workout, a little bit later after the workout, sure, you're going to replenish.
And for everybody listening, a simple carb being like, this could be ice cream or it could be crackers or bread. It's just carbs free of any sort of fiber.
Yeah, just real readily available carbs.
Right.
So your body can use it really quickly. Minimal processing goes on to use it. So if you're eating that, yes, you can replenish some of your glycogen stores. That's the energy in your cells and your muscles. So your body uses that. So now it's depleted. But most of it's already been replaced by the time you're done working out. It's already almost immediately replaced, most of it. So, but you still can replenish some of that. But beyond that, now it's what else does your body need? Your body doesn't need anymore. So what's it going to do with that?
It's already done the work.
Yeah. So now this extra stuff you ate is probably going to just be converted to fat for later.
So it's almost like I'm saying like, ooh, I just went on a long drive. Now I'm going to put gas in my vehicle. When the reality is you're thinking in terms of, I'm about to go on a long drive. I should put some gas in my vehicle.
Yes. Only the vehicle each night will now take that gas and siphon some out and put it in a little gas can and put it in the back of the car.
The glycogen.
Yeah. So now now we've just made it into fat and we've made it readily available for next time you run.
Right.
Instead of having that ice cream before and now it's in there. It's already gas. It's already in the tank.
Now
you can use it.
I want to segue here because you brought up the G word, glycogen. I had never heard of glycogen until 4 years ago. I'd never heard of it. I had no concept of it. I had no awareness of it. And even 4 years ago, I didn't really understand what it was, how it worked, why we use it. I just became aware of the term and that it was something with short-term energy. How long have you known about glycogen? I'm curious.
I think it was 10th or 11th grade biology.
Wow, you learned that way sooner than I did. Because once I learned about glycogen, that
glycogen
changed everything. Because I was like, because I've now realized, David, you have to understand, I thought every single pound fluctuation on the scale meant I had more fat or less fat, or I just needed to have a poo, or I just ate. Like it was food, poop, or body fat. That's it. It never dawned on me, this concept of glycogen. I'd heard of water weight. I'd throw around the water weight word. I had no idea what it was. I never once knew what that meant. Never. And yet I throw it around all the time. Yeah, I'm doing keto. I just lost all my water weight. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, that's those conversations you'd be having, you and someone else, when I hear you losing your weight.
It'd be like, Dad and I talking about it like we both know what we're talking about. Neither of us know what it was. Neither of us. So you learned about glycogen early. When I learned about it, it actually changed how I made decisions. Has glycogen been a factor in your life off and on where affecting your decisions out of curiosity? Because you're talking about it now, or did that come up with the more intense training?
That came up with the more intense training when it came to, getting into the half marathon and beyond distance. Now, I surely could have used this knowledge much sooner. Now, I didn't have it enough. If I would have had access to stuff like YouTube or things like that when I played football, it would have been a different game altogether. It would have been a whole different level. I probably would have just keep playing all through college, but I didn't even know I was doing 17 years old.
Man, YouTube Premium, like getting it, yeah, it's the best thing for knowledge. I learned this YouTube University. It's the best. It's like you can learn anything, and it's just there for free, waiting for you to learn it. Gosh, yeah, I would have loved to have had this at a younger age. It would have changed my life.
Well, yeah, because you can fully submerge into whatever you need to learn.
Hear it explained 100 different ways by 100 different people.
Yeah, and that immersion is what teaches humans. We learn by seeing. We learn by seeing and then by doing.
The only way I would know I was getting bigger is if somebody said something or I sized out of clothes. I genuinely wouldn't see it. What's crazy is I can look at pictures of me at my biggest now. I remember how I used to see myself in my mind. It's a smaller version. I literally, along the journey as my brain started updating to what I look like as a thinner version, it simultaneously made the older version of me look fatter because I was actually seeing reality, which is weird. But I did everything humanly possible to shield my size from myself. I did whatever I could. I avoided mirrors like the plague. I hated mirrors. Like you mentioned the pictures earlier. Dude, like for 15 years of my life, there's very few pictures of me. The only reason I know I'm there is because I took the pictures. I know, I'm on the other side. But that's part of why I like taking the pictures so I wouldn't be in them. No one would ask to take my picture. But how did you manage your weight? Did you get on scales? Did you look at clothes? From the time you were in high school to now, about to turn 35, like, how have you managed it? How have you kept an eye out on it?
Scales are just like a cool novelty to me because I was never like tracking my life. I never had a reason to cut weight or anything like that. Mm-hmm. It's nice to see. It is. I'm not saying scales are bad. They're good metrics, especially if you are using it. But yeah, no, I never track scales. I want to look in the mirror. And the times that I did look worse or the most overweight, I would avoid the mirror more. I just wouldn't look as much as I just kind of filtered out. But yeah, it was mostly that. It was just, just look at myself. Do I like how I look? Do I like my situation? Self-assess.
So you were paying attention though.
Yeah.
But just not to you weren't paying attention to an arbitrary number on a scale.
No, I mean, very rarely. And for a lot of my life, like my adult life, there was large portions where I rarely worked out, rarely ran, rarely did anything. Sure, I was active, but I still rarely did all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And I didn't just get crazy overweight. I would be a little bit conscientious. I would think, well, I used to be a really good athlete. I don't want to lose that. So I would, every now and then I'd go and do something, or I'd spend a week and I'd do a bunch of push-ups that week, just testing myself, making sure I didn't lose something, run a few times a year.
In those periods where you had this inactivity, were you beating yourself up about it?
No, I was just like, in my mind, I was still seeing myself as, okay, no, I'm still this thing. I'm gonna hold myself to this form. And of course, slowly I'm not. I'm slowly losing all muscle over time. And but no, I wasn't. Yeah, I was never.
What would trigger a change?
See, the thing is, it just wasn't a big event for me. It was more of just realizing, I think I need to pay a little more attention to it right now. But to me, I never saw it as something I could just flip a switch. It's not like I can just...
You weren't seeking a switch to flip.
No, I know there's no switch to flip. I know it's a steady course of altering this long-term course. It's a steady thing that just happens over time. Every bit of it is a steady thing. I'm looking at, okay, if I want to change, I know I at least got a month before I really solidify any change.
So you weren't looking for changes in a day or a week or two?
No, I just knew, hey, if I look at my old pictures when I played D1 football, I got some big muscles. Mm-hmm. I look at myself now. Ooh, they're not quite as big. Do I need them really big? No, I don't need them that big, but I do want them bigger than they are now. Okay, I'm gonna go to the gym a little more.
Okay.
And then in the next month, I go to the gym a little more. Okay, now they start looking a little bit nicer, and then I feel good.
So you start shifting direction. So it's really more you just change direction. You just turn the wheel a little bit to the left and just go that way, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah, it's a course correction because I've never really left the course. I just kind of backed off my training. It's more of an extended off season.
Got it. Okay. And then you're just getting back to it and you're going, pushing it. And I've learned the body bounces back. Like I've learned muscles that took me a year to gain. And let's say I lose muscles 3 months worth of gains. It doesn't take 3 months to put them back on. Like you gain them back. I don't know what the ratio would be, but like you gain back fitness much faster than I thought you would.
Yeah, well, and then there's different things that go into that too. Like they call it the newbie gains.
Well, that's a thing. I felt those. Those are awesome.
Yeah, when you first really get into developing your muscles, you actually create more muscle cells. You'll create more of them. Now, if you've done that earlier in life, you've already done a lot of that, and then they've all just gotten smaller. But when you go to work out again, like when I go to work out again, I can bulk up pretty quickly.
Because you get that initial rush.
I did so much when I was younger of building muscles, so I have the extra cells already.
Well, there's like a memory of sorts for the muscles, is my understanding.
Yeah, there's a memory of it. I mean, then there's a memory of the brain, too, of how to use it in order. Use the muscles in the right sequence.
So we'll wrap up here. I want to ask one more question. You saw me as the one going up the yo-yo dieting, but was there anything that if you could back in time have told me and I would have heard you regarding my weight, taking care of my body, what would you have said? Or is there anything you could think of? It's just like, man, if only you knew this, or if you could see this or understand this, you would probably act differently.
I think I couldn't tell you any mechanism because you already knew it all. So
I can assume I wouldn't have argued with you.
Yeah, so I couldn't tell you mechanisms. You knew that. You knew how to lose weight. But what I could have told you, which I never did, is if you could feel what I feel when I move around in my body on Earth and just move around and go do things, you would do whatever it takes to get there.
Well, let me tell you, I mean, several times now I've been running with you out in the woods. I remember we were out at the family property out there in Melbourne, and we were going through the woods, and I just remember, this is awesome. This is so fun. We're just running around the woods, no shirts, just enjoying the woods like a couple of kids. And I'm just like, you do this all the time? And you're like, yeah, this is what I've been doing this whole time. And I was like, I had no idea. I don't know how you could have told me. In a way, I could have heard that, what you just said, because I didn't know what I was missing. Now that I'm here, I do not know that there are words I could use to explain it in a way that another person where I was would get it. I feel like I'm doing a bad job of explaining my thoughts right now. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Now that I've tasted it, it keeps me here because it's like I now know what I'm missing or what I missed.
Yeah, and it's just like the feeling of flying over the earth, just like flying, feeling like you're just flying. The cool thing is just separating yourself from the body and realizing, hey, I'm riding my legs like I'm riding a horse right now. The legs are just going, and my conscious is calm, and my body's just working, and I'm just like calm here in my head. But the body's just working, and I can do that. That feeling there and that ability to have that is great. And I didn't have that until after 30. Really, I mean, I had it a little bit when I was younger, but not the same way. I didn't do it enough times.
Your mind didn't understand it, maybe?
No, my mind didn't understand it, and I never did it enough. I had the physical capability to do it, but I didn't do it enough to make it a ritual to where I was able to unlock that mental part of it.
Interesting. Yeah, I have noticed as I get older, I do think differently. I think about different things. I ask different questions, or like much more cliche existential questions I now think about, which I find interesting. But what you're talking about, I think I understand what you're saying. Like because I've had that, it's like a Zen state when running of like, it's a detachment from my form and I'm just going across the world. And my body hurts, but it's like, I just notice it. It's there. It's not me that's hurting. It's the body that's hurting. I think I get what you're saying.
Yeah. And I think, well, and for my case too, I think it's more of, when I run, I really don't like running on paved roads, city areas. Not that I don't enjoy it. I know I can have tons of enjoyment, great workout, fun time. But when I get out into the trails and I'm just away from everything, and it's just you and you're out there with your own self, you're just flying across the ground. You don't even know what your next step's going to be. Sometimes, I mean, it's a rock. I mean, it could be a root. I mean, it could be anything you might have to dodge. It could be a snake. I mean, but you're just in the moment so much, just react, go, not thinking at all, but still thinking everything.
Yeah.
And it's like that motion there. And then it's like the body's in full working mode. Your circulation is going so fast. Think about the oxygen that's cycling, all the processes in the body that are getting that passing of energy, that passing of blood flow. It's all just, it's cool.
No, you're right. There's something about running in the woods. There's something about it. Everybody I know that does it, there's this thing. We don't know what it is, but we talk about it. It's just something about being out there. And Being with nature. Well, hey, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yeah.
Good
last second podcast.
Good last second podcast. It was fun. Hey, everybody, if you like this, please be sure to leave a comment. Those of you, the Spotify people, leave a comment on the app. In the show notes, there's a little spot you can do that. And if you're in the free Facebook group, you can come into the Facebook group and give some comments. Would love to hear what you think about this interview, about this episode of podcast. All right. See you next time.